In the deductive teaching method, the teacher gives a general rule which is then applied to specific examples and honed through practice exercises. The students may not understand the rule, but by working through the examples based on the rule, they begin to come out of a lack of knowledge about the principle being taught. Before I continue, if you want to see more videos like this, please like and subscribe and hit the bell and share on your social media pages. In the Garden of Eden, we have a deductive teaching situation. Adam and Eve are given a rule. The rule that God gave was, do not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It was a good rule, and God is a good God. But Adam and Eve cannot know that yet, because they do not have the knowledge of good. They are in a lack of knowledge about that. Satan, the evilest creature ever created, presents Adam and Eve with a moral problem when he manipulates them to eat from the fruit that God had forbidden them to eat from. Satan being super evil, but Adam and Eve do not know that yet, because they do not have the knowledge of super evil, so they have no discernment. The deductive teaching method in its purest form, rule then example, Satan being the one providing the example to eat, God being the one providing the rule, do not eat. Without discernment, do you see how Adam and Eve could have been made to feel very uncertain about what to do? Being in a lack of knowledge, and then bringing pressure to make a decision would make anyone uncertain. Standing for God or holding on to hope in the uncertainty, which is what Adam and Eve did not do, would have been faith. God uses the deductive teaching method quite often on those he loves. And if you have missed it, you have missed an opportunity for intimacy with him. You say, how? Well, how many times have you known the right answer, but felt uncertain about how to move forward, and then made the wrong decision? When you are uncertain, aren't you in a lack of knowledge too, like Adam and Eve? Then you've been in a type of Garden of Eden. Though there are many examples of this in the New Testament, a particular famous one is when Jesus is making the prediction of his own death, burial, and resurrection in the Gospels. And how many of those predictions do you think Thomas the doubter was there listening? This is the rule, and here is one of them. He began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders and the chief priests and the scribes, and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. Here's another one from Matthew. From that time, Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things from the elders and the chief priests and the scribes, and be killed and be raised up on the 3rd day. Can Thomas stand in the uncertainty? Or does he need to come out of a lack of knowledge to believe? But Thomas, one of the 12, was not with them when Jesus came. This is after the resurrection. So the other disciples were saying to him, we have seen the Lord. But he said to them, unless I see his hands, the imprint of the nails, and put my finger into the place of the nails, and put my hand into his side, I will not believe. As Jesus does so often for you and me, though we have lost hope in the lack of knowledge, he comes later to take us out of a lack of knowledge. To Thomas, he came 8 days later. Wow, what 8 days that must have been for him. Then he said to Thomas, reach here with your finger and see my hands, and reach here with your hand and put it into my side. And do not be unbelieving, but believing. Thomas answered and said unto him, my Lord and my God. Jesus said to him, because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are they who do not see and yet believe. How many times, like Thomas or Adam and Eve, have you succumbed to an argument about the Bible or God's words to you, which are the same, to later see that you just did not have the intellectual acumen to defeat it at the time? but you lost your hope in it. I do not even think Thomas felt a bit uncertain about Jesus not rising from the dead, but by his friend's testimony, maybe uncertainty began to creep in. Your job as a Christian is twofold. First, to stand and not lose hope in the uncertainty. And second, to make all the unbelievers as uncertain as possible about their positions, so they lose hope in them and renounce their religions, even if they do not know they are practicing one.